Last season we had our first PostClassical Ensemble Book Club. We had a Shostakovich festival that was built around the book Testimony, the Memoirs of Dmitri Shostakovich by Solomon Volkov. So we brought Solomon to D.C. for many reasons, but one of the things we did with him was the book club. And we capped it at 30 people, and they came having read Testimony, and they met with the author. That was great. So we decided to make this an annual PostClassical Ensemble feature. Our big immersion experience this season is called Mexican Revolution, and we fashioned a book club event with the participation of John Tutino, who's a wonderful scholar of Mexican culture and history at Georgetown University. And John's come up with something fabulous. What we're all going to do is read the book Zapata by John Steinbeck, which is a book that was put together after Steinbeck died. And it has three components. It has his notes from traveling in Mexico in the 1930s, and Steinbeck spoke Spanish. And like Aaron Copland and Paul Strand and other Americans, when they went to Mexico in this decade, they found things that they had never suspected, including artists and intellectuals who were empowered as catalysts for social and political change. So Steinbeck fell in love with Mexico. The other things in this book are two scripts for what became the film Viva Zapata in the 1950s, directed by Elia Kazan with Marlon Brando as Zapata. And when you look at these three components of the book, the travel notes, the first draft of the script, and then the final script, you find how much is lost moving from the decade of the Depression to the decade of the Cold War and the Red Scare. Because by the time this film was made, the 1950s, Elia Kazan, who was directing it, was called to Washington to testify and name names before the House Un-American Affairs Committee. And he was told by his producer, Darryl Zanuck, that if he didn't do that, the film would be abandoned. So the film was caught up in a very different decade than the decade in which it originated, which is when Steinbeck was in Mexico in the 30s. And it's a complex product. Certainly, it does not capture the Mexico that Steinbeck originally described and experienced. So at the book club, we'll watch the film, having read the book, and talk about these differences between the 30s and the 50s, and also assess the picture of Mexico that this film evinces. Very different from the picture of Mexico evinced by the other film that's part of our festival, a Mexican film, Redes, with an American cinematographer. That's May 10. Redes really can make you fall in love with Mexico. Mexican landscapes, Mexican faces. I don't think Viva Zapata will make anybody fall in love with Mexico. It's very much a Marlon Brando vehicle. And I would say that the image of Mexico that's presented is probably colonialist, possibly even patronizing.